to the regular scheduled Taber Town Council meeting for May 24th, 2022. Just bring to your attention, if you don't know already, there was some new information brought to us or sent to us from Celaya County. We're also dealing with that information related to item 7.9 on today's agenda. Just for your information, some brief reading and some discussion requirements when we get to that stage. So with that, I'll call the meeting to order and ask for the adoption of the agenda as presented, please. Councillor Firth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. With the new information, do we need to adopt it as amended, or can we just adopt it as presented?
I don't believe it has to be amended because it's already on the agenda. That's just some for information purposes right now, just so all of council is aware of that.
Sounds great. Then I move to adopt the agenda as presented.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Great, thank you. All right, on to adoption of the minutes, item 4.1, minutes of regular meeting of the council, May the 9th, 2022. Councillor Rudd.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll make a motion that council adopts the minutes of the regular meeting of council held on May 9th as presented.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Business arising, there are none from the minutes. Item 5.1, review of 56th Avenue seed germination. Mr. Thibault.
I believe Mr. Raman Lahichi is going to come up and give us an update.
All right, thank you. Mr. Leahy.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council.
Good afternoon.
At the January 10th meeting, Council directed the administration to monitor 56th Avenue for appropriate seed germination. Public Work has been monitoring the area and consulted with a professional landscaper. And I have attached a letter from the landscaper which indicate there is a sufficient growth. And as we monitored, we thought there is a sufficient growth. Would you have any question in that area?
All right, those are some, I take it those are some up-to-date photos there of the area.
That's correct. This one was on, the date is right underneath it. So that's, yes, beginning of May, May
Okay.
12th.
All right, great, thank you. Councillor Rudd.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I've been up and had a look at that. That's a great report, and thanks for the pictures that really explain things. Do we anticipate that it's going to turn into more of a lawn effect, or as opposed to a crop effect in the rows there? Does that eventually fill in? And it just seems to be growing in mud. There's no soil there, is there, that I can see?
There is soil, and it's a new grass, right? You have to give it time to grow. Yeah. And of course, we didn't have any rain this year. That didn't help at all. Yeah. So when I took this picture, I mean, we had rain last week, but at the time, that's the best we can do.
Okay, will it ever get watered? I mean, other than naturally?
We don't water it.
Not going to bother with that, okay. So then we can't expect it then to fill out and start to...
It will eventually. I should explain, this is not a park, right? It's just a land when there is no irrigation, so
right.
It eventually should fill up.
Yeah, just to keep that tight. That's what we're looking for, to keep that dust from blowing, so.
That's correct.
Okay, good job, thanks.
Great, thank you. Councillor Beckering.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In response to Councillor Rudd's inquiry, this is commonly known as a cover crop. And the cover crop is meant to not look pretty, just to keep the soil down, prevent erosion, right, and hopefully catch some moisture if it ever falls. Thank you.
All right, perfect, thank you. Any other questions arising? Councillor McLean.
Is it our job to then mow it if it gets too long? Like in the letter, he was saying, oh, if mowing, maintenance of area, like mowing should occur at the end of June, middle of September. Like, is that our job, or is it do we own the land, or does the developer own the land?
Several questions all at once, sir. Which one do you want to start with?
The developer owns the land. We own partially the front of it, like I believe it's about 3 to 4 meters of it, from the sidewalk.
Great.
And that we mow. The rest of it, developer takes care of it.
Okay. Good to know. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? All right, thank you for that presentation. Appreciate that. No motion required. Moving on to bylaws, item 6.1, proposed bylaw 9-2022, long-term borrowing. Mr. Tebow.
So we'll have Mr. John Orwa come up, looking for second and third reading on this bylaw.
All right, thank you. Mr. Roy.
Yes, Your Worship and members of Council, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Now, before you is the Bylaw 9-2022 long-term borrowing, that's wastewater lagoon solar generation project. So this has already gone through the first reading, and we had to go through the advertisement, which was posted, and it lasted for about 2 weeks, and so far, there's been no appeal. So administration is just requesting for the second and third reading so that we can proceed and start processing the debenture.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising? Councillor Beckering?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. To Mr. Orwa, have you secured financing, sir, and at what rate, please?
Pardon the question?
Have you secured financing, and at what rate?
No, sorry, we've not secured any financing. We are still going through the process. So the process is go to the first reading, then it goes for advertisement for 2 weeks. Then after 2 weeks, we also have some cooling period there. And there's been no appeal. Now is when I'm going to secure the financing part of it. And we do not know exactly what the rate is going to be at this point in time, but it will be locked at the time when I submit the documentation.
All right, thank you. Councillor Sorensen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Mr. Orwa. I just have a question in regards to the outstanding debt of the town of Tabor as of December 31st. Is the 9.3 million for the project? Is it overall the debt that the town has? If you could just explain that.
So the 9.3 million that is appearing on the audited financial statement as at December 31st includes all the debentures that we have for the organization. And that would include, one, we had a sewer truck that was bought way back. We have part of the gymnastics loan which we acquired on their behalf. That's part of the recovery. It includes the library. It includes the lagoon. It includes the land purchase that we had and so many others. So that total 9.3 includes the total loan that the town has. And almost all of them, apart from just one of them, is with Alberta Capital Finance.
All right, thank you. Any other questions arising? All right, someone prepared to make a motion? Councillor Sorensen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd be prepared to make the motion that council gives second reading to long-term borrowing of the wastewater lagoon solar generation project, Bylaw 9-2022 at this meeting.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Someone prepared to make the second required motion. Councillor McLean?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that council gives third and final reading to long-term borrowing wastewater lagoon solar project or solar generation project, Bylaw 9-2022 at this meeting.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. All right, on to item 6.2, proposed business bylaw 8-2022. Mr. Tebow.
So it looks like we'll get Amy and Chris up here as a follow-up to a previous council request and for third reading.
All right, thank you. Amy and or Chris.
Well, good afternoon, Your Worship and members of council.
Good afternoon.
We're bringing forth the information as requested at the last council meeting in regards to why home occupation fees are more than resident business license fees. And you'll see from the attached spreadsheet there that every community is different and approaches this very differently, some higher and some lower. In Tabor, from historical data we have, home occupations were charged more due to the businesses not paying property taxes, as well as the potential higher costs for bylaw enforcement, such as noise complaints, too many customers visiting, parking company vehicles on the properties. So administration would propose that we retain the current fee structure at this time and review it in the fall when the fee bylaw is discussed for the new year. Are there any questions?
All right, thank you. Councillor Sorensen.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for looking into this, and it makes sense now. And so I appreciate the information, and I take the suggestion of maybe discussing this further in the fall would be appropriate right now.
All right, thank you. Any other questions arising? All right, someone prepared to make a motion? Councillor Rudd?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll make a motion that council gives third and final reading to the proposed business bylaw 08-2022 at this meeting.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. All right, on to item 7, action items. Item 7.1, Alberta Advantage Immigration Program. Mr. Tebow.
Well, we've arranged it so the same two can stay in front of you.
All right.
And this will be another iteration of the immigration program council requests previously.
All right, thank you.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So Amy and I are here to provide information that Amy has researched and answer questions that you might have about the two streams related to the Alberta immigration program. As the province has directed that this really be run through the Economic Development Department, we've based created a rudimentary plan for implementation, largely based on the research that Amy's done and the pilot program that was undertaken in the town of Claresholm. That's resulted in the associated request for funding a term position, ideally from the 2022 operating reserves, and then that could be incorporated if you approve in the 2023 operating budget. So Amy will now cover the goals, research, and requirements of the program.
All right.
Okay, so I'll start with the rural renewal stream, which is designated, the whole program is designed to designate rural communities as designated immigration communities for workers. Employers can participate in the rural renewal stream, it's very hard to say, by offering permanent 2-year positions to workers. And the workers are eligible to apply for their permanent residency upon their arrival, which means they should have their residency at the end of the 2-year period. In speaking with businesses in the community, there is great interest in the program, and I haven't talked to a single business owner who's not actively looking for people at the moment. We currently have 4 businesses committed to being part of the program: Tim Hortons, Dairy Queen, Taco Time, and AR Tech. And Corey Pearsons from Tim Hortons is here as well. He was the first one to approach the town, and his letter of support is included with the application. So if you have any questions for him, he's here to answer those. A big part of the program, which is why the municipality is involved, is that we want to retain the workers after the 2 years. Many workers end up moving to bigger cities that have more culture or more people that speak their language. And our goal is to build that community and culture here so the workers stay here long after the 2 years. In terms of partners, we are working with or have support from the MD, Barnwell, Vauxhall, the Tabor Chamber of Commerce, their letter is included, Lethbridge Family Services, who are familiar with this program and have worked with Claresholm, and Tabor District Community Adult Learning, and they have offered their support, especially in regards to creating welcoming and inclusive communities. We also have interest from community partners and business owners to create the committee that's required to oversee this program. In terms of the Rural Entrepreneurship Program, it's mostly administered by the province. This program is to match immigrants that have enough capital with business owners that are looking to sell. And immigrants who apply through the program have to show they have enough capital to purchase the business as well as operate it for 2 years to give them a good chance of success. The applicant must visit Tabor and meet the committee to be approved before they can purchase a business, and Chinook Community Futures has offered their support in terms of hosting people and helping find businesses that are looking to sell. Are there any questions?
All right, thank you. Councillor Beckering.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through Ms. Allred. You said that the province is handling this particular program, correct?
The entrepreneurship program.
Yes. Could you explain to me why you need an assistant for 2 years?
For the rural renewal program, so for any worker that is coming to work for a local business, that is administered through the town and municipality. The entrepreneurship program for someone looking to buy a business, that is mostly administered through the province. So they're 2 separate programs.
All right, thank you. Councillor Beckering, and a follow-up?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Sure.
I'll follow up. So explain to me why you need another person.
So the experience in Claresholm actually ended up requiring 3 new people to carry out that pilot program. They received, I think it's approximately 35,000 applications from immigrants around the world. All those have to be processed, analyzed, go through the committee process, have individuals who are businesses in town who will eventually make an offer. The program requires that the economic development officer on behalf of the town signs off on each of those offers, which requires then follow-up with the other services that the committee provides and the individual supports in town, with the goal of working with these people that are brought here over that 2-year period so that they get attached to Tabor, they feel supported and welcomed here, and they want to stay, which is the experience of many of the business owners who are supportive of the program as well. So they've gone through that cycle themselves. So there's a substantial workload in regards to processes and paperwork involved in just dealing with that many applications and through the website. So we become somewhat of an immigration service.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Rudd?
So then the job description then would be administrative. It would not include things like settlement services or those types of things that are already offered in the community?
Those particular services will be dealt with our partners. So the town's role is central and organizational, and then we make use of existing services and people in the community to partner them up with the businesses if they need it to make those things work, those situations work. And then the more public linkages that you just spoke of, we have them as business partners, and they would fulfill their normal typical roles that they would offer in any other situation. So the province is formalizing this and requiring that the town is involved.
Okay. Follow up, Mr. Mayor?
Sure, you bet.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that explanation. Those partnering people would be good partners. I mean, they can manage that for you. I know that from experience. So what has been calculated, if anything, on a long-term return benefit, for return on investment here? How's that? What does that look like?
Yeah, we haven't
Do we
done
increase
any.
Corey's taxes over to Jim Martin?
Well, we haven't done any financial modeling of the rural renewal stream, so we wouldn't have anything to report on that at this point in time.
No experience from Claresholm?
Other than just the fact that they recruited. Correct me if I'm wrong, or you tell them
Yeah.
how many actual.
They have
individual-
recruited and brought over 30 workers, which resulted in 80 people, including their families, and they're currently matching 18 more at the moment.
So sort of tangentially, and this is not meant to be financially accurate, but in general, you've got 90 people more in town using existing businesses. Obviously, they're occupying residences in some fashion that would generate tax revenue in that regard.
So an uncalculable correlation.
We definitely need an economist for a period of time to put their mind to that one. But
No,
there are
but
spin-off.
A does equal B, so appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councillor Sorensen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for looking into this. I'm sure it was a big project to undertake, but I fully support this program. I think there's a need for it. As you can tell from the local businesses that they support it also. And I think this would be a great opportunity for the town of Tabor to participate in.
All right, thank you. Just for clarification, there's 30 immigrants that came over, and it resulted in 80 all told, the families included, right? So that's happened now, or they're still working on that?
No, those 30 people, 80 people are
Okay.
here, and they're working on filling 18 more spots at the moment.
That's the Claresholm
Yeah,
model?
that's just
Okay.
all in Claresholm.
Okay, great,
So a
thank
total
you.
of 48 jobs.
I see, all right, okay, perfect, thank you. Councillor McLean?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And with those people that have been recruited into Claresholm, have any of them left? or are they still within Claire's home? Like, I'm curious if, we get them here, how are we going to keep them here? What have they found that works for them, or are they struggling to keep them there? That's my question.
It is a little early to tell because they only started 2 years ago. But the one thing they did say is that because you can recruit from overseas, but you could also recruit from people who are already in Canada that don't have permanent residency. And they found that those are the people that are leaving. So they're coming for their 2 years, getting the residency and going back to where they were in Canada. So that's the only insight they have so far because it's just so new still.
All right, thank you, Councillor Rupp.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Have we got the jobs? Claire's Home's about half our size, so they've got 48 positions. Do we have that available in your? What does your survey tell you?
I don't have those numbers defined yet. I have 4 businesses that are committed at the moment, and we've been talking to many more, but there just hasn't been the time to get those numbers.
Thank you.
And I think just without investing in actual business, I think the two out of the 4, roughly, it's around 20 staff they're short now. So I can imagine just how many across the community we're actually short of staffing-wise. All right, thank you. Any other questions arising? All right, someone prepared to make a motion? Councillor Sorensen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd be prepared to make the motion that council directs administration to apply for the rural renewal stream and rural entrepreneurship, it is hard to say, stream through the Alberta Advantage Immigration Program.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously, thank you. And the second required motion? Councillor Firth?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that council directs administration to increase the 2022 and 2023 operating budgets to support the hiring of a 2-year term economic development assistant in the amount of $61,925 annually.
All right, thank you. Mr. Thibault?
Administration just has a clarification on the 2022 operating budget portion. There was a clerical error that we'd like to actually draw from the 2022 operating reserves so that we don't have to bring the budget back for an approval. That could then turn into, so if we could update your motion to that effect, if you so choose, please.
Sure.
I just think, just to be clear, I believe a council member would have to add that amendment, correct? Add your friendly amendment, as long as the council member. Councilor Becker?
That's not correct, Mr. Mayor. I think it's an indication from administration to change to add reality to a motion.
Okay, I'm looking at that as a friendly amendment. Are you talking friendly amendment to the motion?
Okay.
So as far as,
An update to a funding source, I don't.
yes,
You can withdraw it and start again.
yeah, you can do that,
Can I amend
absolutely,
my own
sure,
motion
yeah.
since we haven't voted on it yet? No? Okay.
So you'd rather withdraw that and start again, as
Sure.
Councilor
I'd
Becker
like to
said? Sure.
withdraw my previous motion.
Okay, that'll make it simpler. Perfect,
Okay.
thank you.
And then, I move that council directs administration to increase, or to draw from the 2022 operating reserves and increase the 2023 operating budget to support the hiring of a 2-year term economic development assistant in the amount of $61,925 annually.
All right. Got all the bases covered. All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
On to item 7.2, rubber tire excavator award. Mr. Thibault.
Mr. Gary Shear is going to come up and give us the lowdown on this one.
All right, thank you, Mr. Scher.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through the 2022 capital budget, we determined that Public Works needs a new rubber tire excavator because the other one is like 26 years old. It needs replacing, like me, sort of. But so we went out to an RFP. We threw out an RFP. We only had one respondent. It wasn't really the machine we want. It was way over budget. So purchasing, thank God, Megan came to our rescue and says, let's go out for quotes. So we went out for quotes, and we finally ended up with a suitable rubber tire excavator from a local contractor, from a local supplier. It falls within their specifications and falls within their budget. So we're recommending award to CEM equipment for rubber tire excavator.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising? Someone prepared to make that motion? Councilor Beckering?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. To Mr. Shear, were you surprised you didn't get more bids?
No, a rubber tire excavator is really a hard piece of equipment. Usually they're all tracked equipment, but we don't need tracks because we don't have a truck and trailer to ship them around. What works best for us is a rubber tire excavator. Most municipalities have those.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Rudd?
Be prepared to make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
All right.
I make the motion the council awards the purchase of a new rubber tire excavator to Chinook Equipment, CEM, for the amount of $278,915 exclusive of GST, with funds to come from the 2022 capital budget.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 7.3, Facilities Electrical Power Supplies Project. Mr. Thibault.
Gary will speak to this one as well.
All right, thank you.
So through all the events we've been having in Cornfest, there are numerous events. Definitely our power supplies have increased. We've had old electrical panels that we need to have replaced. They're made out of wood. They're just not meeting CSA standards by any means. We need to they're not waterproof. There's been issues with people going into them, even though they were locked, they were opened because they're wood, easy accessible. So we're asking council to, replace those. We also would need some continual wooden cord covers we currently have. We want to replace with neoprene cord covers there again, just to anticipate some more. Food trucks are the most used ones for the cable covers, things like that. And so events, people can walk over the cables without fear of tripping or anything like that. So sooner or later, we're going to have to do this. We thought this is the most viable time. It's not a cheap cost, not a cheap request by any means. It's in addition to the capital budget. But we think this year we might not be able to have some panels because our electrical inspector is kind of getting iffy on these panels and calling us out on a couple of them. So we'd rather be proactive than reactive. So we're asking council for $60,000 for this project. Just for a few savings, the wheel excavator we saved $21,000 on this year. Our police generator replacement we saved $60,000 this year. And our CO2 injection, $24,000 this year. So we actually had saved money in the capital budget to actually bring this forward.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising? Councillor Beckering?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Prepare to make a motion.
All right.
That council directs administration to add electrical power supplies project to the 2022 capital budget at an estimated cost of $60,000 with funds to come from the capital reserves.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 7.4, Tabor Talks Veteran Oral History Project. Mr. Thibault.
Looks like Emily's already queued herself up. She'll provide the explanation.
Thank you, Emily.
Good afternoon, Mayor and
Good
Council.
afternoon.
From last year's Veteran Banner Project, we had such a huge success, and we've had so many people from the community want to be a part of that project that I thought that it would be nice to elaborate and kind of branch out on that project and honor our veterans in another way. I applied for a few grants this year, and we were very successful in getting 2 of them for a total of $14,000 to go towards this project already. I am looking to see if council will allow another $2,600 to come out of your budget to finish the remainder of that budgeted for this project. What we will do is an oral history project of our local veterans to receive some of their stories and photographs and things like that, and produce from the oral histories a couple of video clips, an actual documentary that we hope to display at our Remembrance Day ceremony this year, at the 2022 Remembrance Day ceremony. We're going to create a virtual recorded walking tour of our banners, as well as add to the banners, but that's not part of this project. I'm also already creating the walking tour map that was requested by council for this project, and as well as a few just things that we can add to our website and social media to help honor our veterans in a nicer way.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising? All right, Councillor Rudd.
Yeah, I'd just like to say that this has been a huge success, and I really appreciate the effort that you've put into that. And you kind of conceived the idea and brought it to life, and it's been really popular and very, very well received, as you can tell by people coming back. So with that, Mr. Mayor, I'd be prepared to make a motion.
All right.
That council directs administration to move $22,600 from the operating reserves to assist with the funding for the Veteran Oral History Project.
All right, thank you. Councillor Becker, you had a question also?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a comment. Whenever we can remember our veterans and relive our history in a good way, I'm fully supportive of it. Thank you very much for your work.
All right, thank you. Councillor First?
Thank you. I just would like to speak in favor of the motion as well, that I'm really happy that we're putting this forward because our veterans are a finite resource and something, and I'm glad this is getting done sooner rather than later. So thank you.
All right, thank you for your many efforts on this, Emily. That's great. All right, we do have a motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried now. That's great. Thank you. On to item 7.5, procurement policy. Mr. Thibault.
Megan's going to come up, and I don't want to butcher your last name too badly. So,
all right. Thank you, Megan S. Welcome.
Hello, good afternoon, your worship, members of council. Sue Shulditsky.
Sue Shulditsky, okay.
So I am the town's procurement specialist. Administration is bringing forward the proposed procurement policy for your consideration. As you can see in your agenda package, there are 4 highlighted changes that administration is proposing. I'm just going to steal the mouse here. So first off, we have just some minor changes to the rewording procurement methods. We also have our business trade agreements, which the Canoe Procurement Group of Canada was the RMA, Rural Municipal Association, yes. So, and then we also have the third one here is in our old policy, we had goods services, in the previous policy, goods services and construction procurements were under the same dollar figure, whereas in trade agreements, construction is separated. So we're just, administration is proposing that we have construction projects be separated to follow those. And then fourth off, we have the proposed changes for the award process and authority. So these would allow for administration to approve award as per delegated authority within council approved budgeting limits. So the only procurements that would come back to council for approval would be outside of the previously approved budget. I'd also like to draw attention to number 2-1-9-2. So it reads here as over 5,000 up to 25,000 informal quotes approved by functional manager. So in the previous policy, we did have the over 5,000 up to 25,000 informal quotes, local vendors when possible, approved by functional manager. So although administration has removed the local vendors when possible, item 2-1-7 still remains when not prohibited by legislation, legal requirements, or trade agreements. If a local source of supply can be found and can render the town of Taber as good a value as located elsewhere, it will be supported. So local preference still remains in the policy as per previous council wishes. Some of these proposed changes came from the CAO. Mr. Thibault, do you have anything else to add? Otherwise, I'm available for questions.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising?
I won't add anything unless there's a question.
All right, thank you, Megan, for that presentation. Any questions arising whatsoever? All right, Councillor Sorensen.
Thank you for the presentation, Megan S. Am I understanding that the bidding's procedure is not going to be all going to the lowest bid?
No, so
was it always that, and now it's changed and there's a different grading system?
No, so a tender would just goes by price, whereas an RFP and all those others have evaluation criteria. So pricing could be based off 50% of the whole total. You can have your references, you can have all sorts of different evaluation criteria, so not necessarily just by pricing.
All right, thank you, Councillor Rudd.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This process of procurement, it's often goes on in the dark corners of the administration, but we've seen today evidenced by Mr. Scheer's comments about the value that procurement department brings, and I think you've done a good job here of refining things once more, so it'll still remain in the quiet corner because it's so efficient. So with that, Mr. Mayor, I would like to make the motion that Council approves the procurement policy CS FIN-1 as presented.
Right, thank you. Motion on the table. Councillor Becker.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Alberta Urban Municipal Association has changed its name to what, AMA now?
No. Canoe Procurement of Canada.
Yeah. So, but the bylaws reads it, right? Like 2.12, it says, this includes but not services through innovative buying techniques. This includes but not limited to the affinity and standing offer program established in the Alberta Urban Municipal Association.
Yeah, so it was the AUMA is separate from what RMA
Yeah, but
was.
AUMA is no longer in existence.
No, RMA is no longer. AUMA, Alberta Municipalities is change of that one as well, yes. So
Thank you very much. Good catch there, Councillor Beckering. So AUMA is now Alberta Municipalities.
That's correct.
All right, thank you. Councillor Becker.
So, with that, Mr. Mayor, I wonder if Councillor Rudd would entertain a friendly amendment to change the AUMA to AMA and throughout the body of the bylaw.
Mr. Mayor, that would be most acceptable, yes.
All right, thank you. Friendly amended motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you.
thank you.
On to item 7.6, accounts receivable collections. Mr. Thibault.
Geez, looks like John's shifting things all over the place. We'll get Donna to present this one.
Good
All
afternoon.
right. Thank you. Donna?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Our administration is bringing forward the accounts receivable collections and write-off policy just for our 3-year review. We have not made any changes to the body. There's minor formatting changes, and we changed the department from finance to corporate services, and then just the review date. So no changes to the body of the policy.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising? Councillor McLean?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just prepared to make a motion
All
that
right.
council approves the accounts receivable collections and write-offs policy CSFIN or CS-FIN-4 as presented.
Thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 7.7, first quarter financial statements. Mr. Thibault.
Mr. Orwa, could we expect you to speak to this one?
Is the first quarter financial statements. And of course, the first quarter, we just look at the trend. So far, nothing much, and I always just give back to the audit committee members if there's anything they would like to share, because within the audit committee, we do go and digest a lot of stuff.
All right, thank you, Councillor McLean.
So I have a question. Under the percentage used, it should be around 25%, correct? If it's like over 100%, can I ask why?
Anything very specific that you want us to look at?
Well, there's just like a few that under the percentage use column, there's licenses, animal control dogs, 134%. Seniors lodges, Tabor and district housing, 116%. And there's like a few others that go up in the 70s, or another one here, insurance premiums, 103%. And so I'm just curious as to why they're so high.
So that depends on, remember, what we're looking at there is actual minus the budget. So if you look at the actual, for example, if you pick one of those ones you've talked about, you'll see, for example, if purchase and other governments, you see 150,000, but the budget is 809. So at this point, the actual is still way, way, way below the actual budget. But when you come to the second quarter, you'll start, those percentages start increasing in between. So you start moving to 50% and that kind of thing. At the same time, it also depends on actual needs at that time when the expenses are necessary.
I see. Yeah, okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Councillor Sorensen.
Just a couple comments. Again, this is the first quarter, so then we can't really digest any real numbers right now. I think there was a note that just property taxes that are prepaid are going to be reflected on here. But then I just seen today that the property taxes have been sent out to everyone.
Yeah, I got mine.
Yeah. But I look forward to working on this committee and seeing how we digest this throughout the year.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other questions arising? Councillor Beckering?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm part of the audit committee, and Mr. Orwa explained the first quarter financial statements quite well. And to my great surprise, didn't sound no alarm bells, so that's good.
All right, thank you. Any other questions arising? And note with Mr. Orwa's and Donna's explanations there, where we're at thus far. I don't have any concerns either. It's we're in good shape. Mr. Orwa is always good for red flagging that if there is a concern, and there is none right whatsoever, correct?
That's correct.
All right, thank you. So any other questions arising whatsoever? All right, there are no motion required. Moving on to item 7.8, Taber Municipal Library Boards. Mr. Tebow. Thank you, Mr. Orwa.
I think Ms. Carrie Van Ham is best to speak to this one, so I'll get her to do that.
Thank you, Ms. Van Ham.
Good afternoon, Council.
Good afternoon.
We're bringing this back to Council because there was an audit done at the library board level or at the provincial board level and found out that we had extended the terms of 3 of the latest appointees by an extra month. So we're bringing this back to Council. They have a 3-year term, a maximum of a 3-year term, and Council appointed them in November till the December 31st term. So in order to fix that, we're just asking Council to consider making these amending motions and reducing their term by 1 year, and that should make everybody happy. I'm available for any questions.
All right, thank you. Any questions arising? All right, someone prepared to make the first motion? Councillor McLean.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I move that Council amends the board appointment expiry date of Amanda Sedley to the Taber Municipal Library Board to expire December 31st, 2024 to December 31st, 2023.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Someone prepared to make the second motion? Councillor Firth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that Council amends the board appointment expiry date of Chanel Torrey to the Taber Municipal Library Board to expire from December 31st, 2024 to December 31st, 2023.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Any third required motion? Councillor Sorensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I make a motion that Council amends the board appointment expiry date of Jim Tallman to the Taber Municipal Library Board to expire from December 31st, 2024 to December 31st, 2023.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. All right, moving on to item 7.9, proposed municipal twinning between Town of Bondo and Sayaya County. Mr. Tebow.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So at the beginning of the meeting, as you made mention, there's some additional information that was brought to you in paper format. And so we're hoping for some council discussion and possible resolution on what's in front of you.
All right, thank you. I believe everybody's had a chance to have a look at that. Anybody want to start? Questions, comments? Councillor McLean?
So this other one, was it written by Kenya?
Yes.
Sayaya? Oh,
Sayaya County, yep.
So were they not given our version? So they've just written their own version?
They were given our original version, yes.
Oh, but they just wanted to make some different wording, I guess.
Yeah, this is their comeback suggestion, anyway.
See, okay.
Right. Councillor Rudd?
Looks like they've done a good job in a collaborative effort to come up with a document that's meaningful. I'd be prepared to make a motion on that, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you.
Make a motion that council authorizes the affirmation of collaboration document between the town of Bondo, Saye, County, Kenya, and the town of Tabor for subsequent approval by the required officials representing the town of Bondo, Saye, County, Kenya. Once approved by both parties, Council of Town of Tabor authorizes Mayor Prokop to sign the agreement on behalf of the town of Tabor.
All right, thank you. Mr. Tebow, I think you're just looking for some clarification on which actual draft?
Correct, yeah. Councillor Rudd mentioned the affirmation of collaboration. The new version that was presented to us was a memorandum of collaboration. I just want to be sure that we're talking about the right letter.
The right document, okay. Councillor Rudd?
Yes, we are talking about the memorandum of collaboration that was distributed to council earlier.
All right, fair enough. That covers all the bases there, Mr. Tebow?
Yep, that does it for me.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. All right, on to item 710, department reports. I will go through those individually. If you have a question, please stop me accordingly. Starting with Human Resources Department report. Finance Department report. Fire Department report. Administrative Services Department report. Engineering and Public Works Department report. Councilor Rudd.
You got ahead of me, Mr. Mayor.
All right, which one?
I have a question in regards to the, I think it's the HR or the, about workers' compensation. I was just wondering how we're doing on that front with workers' compensation, whether we are maintaining a good record with them and dealing with our claims in an efficient manner, and whether our rates are staying low.
All right, Mr. Tebow, who would be speaking to that exactly?
I'm not sure who would be the best to speak to it, if it would be John or not. Administratively, I can tell you that since I've been here, there's been no alarming adjustments or changes to our WCB claims or rates, to the best of my knowledge. And I don't know if there's anything that John could actually add or not.
Okay, I guess just for clarification, would that HR would be involved with that initially, and then, right, okay. All right, thank you. Mr. Orwa?
So basically, WCB is taken care of, you're right, by HR.
Right.
But I think, as Mr. Thibault has said, previously we were on the wrong side, and things have started improving. Because I think the last 2-3 years we've been above the industry rate. Our rates have been so high because of a few cases that we've had within the organization. But gradually things are dying out quietly, and we hope to improve the rates in the long run.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Rudd?
Yes, thank you.
Answers all the questions, perfect, thank you. All right, on to Public Works Treatment Facilities Department report. CAO Department report. Councilor Sorensen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just seen that there was a metals project meeting, and I was just wondering if you could provide an update with that.
All right, Mr. Tebow?
Thought you were going to let me be, but. So these are the ongoing project meetings that we've been having since council came our direction and asked for something to be happening out at the Meadows project, something different or some alternatives that we could review. So we've sat down, we being planning director Chris Egan and myself with Douglas Bergen, and we do have some numbers worked out on a few different options. We just weren't ready to quite present at this particular meeting. But we will have something to bring forward for council's consideration to sort of see if we could kickstart something out of the Meadows.
All right, thank you, Councilor Rudd.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm on the fire department, so always on the fire department. Just a question about I was just intrigued with the donation of medical supplies and such that to the Ukraine. and just wondering how that was accomplished and how we managed to ship things.
All right, Chief Monsell.
Thank you very much. These medical supplies were actually given to us from the Safe Consumption site in Lethbridge. We had done a number of volunteer sections over there, and being that they were closed, that's where we ended up getting the donation of equipment. So by passing it on, we worked with a group. He's a local supporter that we've used many times. His name slips my mind right now. But he came in, got the equipment, used a C-can, and transported it over. So all these supplies were supported. Yeah, and so it wasn't as effective or supportive cost to the municipality, and it wasn't even equipment we actually burdened the cost of.
Even if, no, that's great work, thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, that's all right. No panic. All right, on to Recreation Department report. Planning and Economic Development report. All right, no other questions? No motion required. We'll move on to Mayor and Council reports. Councillor Firth, can we start with you today?
I have attended all of the meetings that I've been required to in the last month, as well as a Town of Taber facility tour that was very interesting. So thanks to all of the staff that toured us around and answered our 1,000 questions. And it was really, I always find it interesting to see all the ins and outs of how our town works. Also, I attended the AAPG conference in St. Albert, the Alberta Association of Police Governance conference, which was very informative. And attended a tour of the Yates and Casa in Lethbridge with the rest of the Arts and Heritage Committee, which was, again, very informative and eye-opening. So thank you to Emily for organizing that and to the rest of the committee for attending. That's all I've got.
All right, thank you. Councillor Beckering.
Sorry, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right.
I'm pushing the wrong button here.
Oh, okay.
I attended some meetings as required, Mr. Mayor, some not.
Okay.
As council knows, so nothing earth-shaking to report. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I attended all of my meetings as required, as well as the strategic planning session and the council field trip that we got to have. The facility tour. It was really fun, learned a lot, talked to other people in the town, and they're just like, dang, I wish I could have gone. It's really cool, and I hands off to everybody who runs our town, and anyways, they do an amazing job, and the technology that we have is just amazing. So anyways, hats off to you.
All right, thank you. Yeah. All right, Councillor Sorensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I attended all of my meetings also. I attended the wetlands groundbreaking ceremony, which was a ghost took my mic off. And I also attended the Alberta Association of Police Governance committee or session, the Taber Chamber, the audit committee, and I was invited this year to have a booth at the Sparks Fair, which helps celebrate school children and mental health and well-being. So I was privileged to take part in that also.
All right, thank you. Councillor Rudd?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I'm add my voice to the gratitude that we have for the town employees and the facility tour. It was really great to see, and we're in good hands, and it's amazing to see what goes on. It makes it easy to advocate for the staff and for the town for the amazing job that's being done. So really appreciate that. Also attended meetings as required, and we did some strategic planning at Taber Housing. Regular business was conducted at the Handy Bus meeting. I attended a Legion meeting, Taber Community Action Prevention Society, and there was also a Horizons Victim Services evening at the library that I was privileged to attend. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you. And for myself, I attended a variety of meetings as always. dealt with agenda setting, document required sign-in, check signing. Also attended the wetlands groundbreaking ceremony. Taber District Housing Foundation had two big fundraisers going on this past month. Attended both the Dairy Queen Blizzard Day and or the McHappy Day. Very well attended, very well supported, and very well done. Also a grade 6 class tour of the council chambers and activities. I also attended the Spark Fair at the Taber Agplex. That was a great event and Councillor Sorensen, hats off to you as well for participating in that and being part of that exhibit display. And that was a full house. I think it was around 300 people, roughly. So that went over very well as well. I also took part of the majority of the town tour, and thanks for everybody involved with that, as well as the Victim Services invite. Also a full house, I think, Councillor Rudd, correct? So hats off to yourself for chairing that, and that went over very well and very well received as well. I also met with several residents there with a few complaints and or suggestions related to the trout pond area. So with that would be my complete report. We also don't need a motion on that, correct? So moving on to item 7.12, standing item, council requests. Mr. Thibault.
So earlier this afternoon, we talked about item number 1. There will be a second update coming as required by July 1st. Hopefully it's as good looking as the last one, or better. And in progress is still the second item. There's been no additional updates for today's meeting.
All right, thank you. Any other standing item requests by individual council members want to bring up at this stage? Councillor Rudd?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, just a comment. I seem to be nuisance in chief here, so I won't say anything else.
That's all right, it's allowed. Thank you, Councillor Sorensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just wondering if there's a master plan in our buildings, our recreational facilities, and I see that there's some perhaps replacement of the small ice, and I was just wondering if we've ever evaluated whether that should actually be fixed or if, you know, there should be some new facilities. So I was just wondering, spark kind of a conversation in that.
All right, thank you. I think Mr. Thibault and or our Recreation Department can also add to that. I believe there's something in the works there at the moment.
So what I could say, sorry, Brian, what I could speak to is I know that our strategic session asked for a couple of feasibility studies to come forward. And so those are being found and will be brought forward, one of which speaks to a recreation sort of multi-use facility feasibility study. I know we don't have the software that would be nice to have from an asset management perspective that speaks to all of our assets and their ages and their the maintenance schedules and all that activity. So we do have a handle on a lot of different dates. I know through Gary, and I can't remember what the name of the Asset Finder, I think, is one of the programs that we have. It doesn't seem to be that user friendly, but there's still a lot of correlation that has to happen there. So that is what I know from a feasibility study standpoint, and I believe they're coming fairly soon as the strategic plan outlined. We bring them forward to create these discussions again. And Brian, if you had something to add to that, fantastic.
All right, thank you. Oh, all right, sir. I didn't catch it. Nothing for that. All right. Okay. All right. Got that covered for the moment, Councillor Sorensen?
Yeah, it's just there's always conversation
Right.
in the few committees I sit also, so thank you for that information.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you. Any other standing item council requests? All right, seeing none, I just asked for a motion to move into the meal break for 30 minutes, at which time we shall move into closed session. Councillor McLean.
I so move.
All right, thank you. Motion on the table. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you.